Tom Brady winning that 7th ring in 10 appearances, and just the other records that he's already set that he just continues to put out there in no man's land as far as touchdown passes, games, wins, all those things in just the postseason themselves. The connection with Gronk, they've surpassed Jerry Rice, Joe Montana, and those guys now too. The way he's just sitting these numbers out there, especially doing it at his age, I just feel like he's put it out there where no man is really ever going to come close. However, the effect on Patrick Mahomes' legacy, I don't feel like it's necessarily a negative. I mean, when you get to the Super Bowl, you're supposed to lose to Tom Brady, and maybe not with the Bucs. We're typically used to seeing it, obviously, with the New England Patriots. However, but this was Tom Brady's offense. About mid-season, these guys were really starting to struggle, and we started to hear a lot of chirping about Bruce Arians allowing Tom Brady to start coaching these guys like he wasn't allowed to do in New England. And it really started to take form in a way that what we kind of recognized Tom Brady doing. And when we got to the Super Bowl, we knew he was going to have a game plan to attack these guys that was going to be, it was going to work. And essentially, it was going to be on Mahomes to do it for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm with you on Mahomes played incredible. And if 2 touchdown passes don't bounce off his teammates' faces, it's a 31-23 ball game and a whole lot different landscape, especially if Tyreek Hill catches that one early. Tough catch nonetheless, but it did hit him right in the face, that Darrell Williams catch. As he's laying horizontal with the ground, hits him right in the face at the goal line as well. So they had the opportunity to change the landscape of this game and really couldn't get it done. A shanked punt. I mean, everything was going wrong that possibly could go wrong for Kansas City, but I still think they had some opportunities to at least make a push to change the landscape of the game. But ultimately, it was a good old-fashioned butt kick, and I think a little bit that's being overlooked. The Eric Bieniemy situation, why isn't he getting a head coaching job? Well, watch the Super Bowl. We knew that they were going to be thin on the offensive line, especially at the ever so important left tackle position, and we did nothing with running backs chipping, no extra tight ends, no RPO stuff that could offset some of that pass rush and really attack what the Buccaneers did not do well all season on defense. And they did nothing out of the ordinary to try to alleviate the issues in that offensive line leaking like a sieve, and they left Mahomes out there to dry and try to do it all himself. They also continually try to take deep shots. Now, when your quarterback doesn't have time to throw, we can't be looking for McCole Hardman on deep crossing routes. That's just not a solid game plan, in my opinion. The second half, they came out, they ran the ball a little bit, had some success. However, they quickly abandoned it. They didn't stick with it and put Mahomes right back in harm's way and really just kind of left it in his hands to try to go out and be a magician. And that's just not going to get it done against a defense with that much talent, that's getting that much pressure without having to send any extra defenders, and as well as Tom Brady, who's going to get down the field and continue to put together good, solid, long drives. And when you start getting gashed by Leonard Fournette late in the game, it was just it was a leaking sieve in every facet of the game for Kansas City. Unfortunately, they took a big L, took it on the chin pretty hard in this one, but I do think it'll be a big opportunity for Mahomes to learn. Also, that Chiefs coaching staff, we've seen Andy Reid not have his best game plan and kind of stick to his guns a little too much in big games over the years, dating clear back to Philadelphia. Sometimes these guys need to change up their game plan, change up what they're doing to alleviate some of the issues that we knew they were going to have coming into this ball game.
Well, what's done is done, right? Tampa Bay won. Kansas City didn't even score a touchdown, which was unbelievable to me. How many people lost money on the Super Bowl because Kansas City couldn't find the end zone. But when you go to the Super Bowl, you're just expected to lose to Tom Brady. And I've been saying it for years that I don't ever expect another quarterback to win 7 Super Bowls, let alone 6. I think 5 is like the benchmark for a stud quarterback in the record books. If you look back through the history of the NFL, everybody said Joe Montana is the best quarterback ever because he won X amount of Super Bowls. Well, Tom Brady has doubled that. Terry Bradshaw won 4, I believe, and he was the benchmark for a little while. And then Tom Brady just comes in here, and it's unbelievable what Tom Brady has done. He could have been on any team, and I'm sure you guys for the last 10 days since the Super Bowl's been over, you see photoshops of Tom Brady with the Jets or Tom Brady with the Lions. Like, this is your final test, like an old action movie, like Lethal Weapon. This is the final boss, Tom Brady. You have to go play for the Jets to win a Super Bowl. All it means to me is he has nothing left to prove. He had nothing left to prove the last time he won a Super Bowl, but he keeps doing it for what reason? This time last year, I wrote an article right after he switched to Tampa Bay, and it was basically saying, he's like an evil genius, kind of like Dr. Evil with the laser beams on sharks' heads. It's like there's nothing left for you to do. So why are you so driven? Like I just want a little piece of that. Most people don't have an ounce of discipline or an ounce of integrity or honor as, professional football players do. And when it comes to Tom Brady, at this point, he's just doing it to do it. Kind of like when you have a puppy who uses the bathroom in the kitchen. You rub their face in it and hope they'll learn. Tom Brady is doing this to every professional football player and coaching staff in the league. Grown men. He's making people look silly. He's making analysts like us, DFS players. He's just saying, you know what, I can do it to do it. And then the icing on the cake, he wants to get wasted at the Super Bowl, at the Boat River Super Bowl parties, throwing around the trophy. And then again, people look, in today's day and age, right, people look for any little thing they can hang on to kind of disparage your character or bury you or say this guy or this girl is a nobody or nothing. Doesn't mean. So Tom Brady wins all these Super Bowls. He's taken all Tampa Bay of all teams to win, and people, they don't talk about that. They say his character stinks. The lady's father, who created the Lombardi Trophy, is serious. She sent out a tweet and wrote an article that she cannot believe that Tom Brady is disrespecting her father, his father's legacy in such a nature where he's, celebrating and he throws the Super Bowl trophy to Gronk. I mean, you get to a point where there's nothing bad you can say about someone. You have to make up kind of like this odd, ridiculous kind of things. Tom Brady is the greatest football player of all time. Tom Brady was the greatest football player of all time 3 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever you want to do it. So at this point, you're kind of just nitpicking and throwing stones here. So that Super Bowl, it wasn't really telling. We knew all we had to know about Tom Brady years ago. Again, this was just icing on the cake. To close this and put a nice little bow on what I'm saying here, Tom Brady is the greatest football player of all time. Personally, I find him to be top two, Jordan, Tom Brady. He's the best overall athlete of all time, because right now people always judge it on rings. People say rings, aka championships. Tom Brady has a ton of them right now. So Tom Brady is the greatest football player of all time.
I'm all for giving Tom Brady his flowers for accomplishing this, but it comes to a point where he's just getting too much credit, like he's single-handedly winning a one-on-one football tournament, which doesn't exist. A few things. Number one, Tom Brady going to a new system, which a lot of people, I was guilty for this at one point, called him a system quarterback. That is now factually incorrect. Didn't age very well. He's proved that wrong. He went to a new system. Sure, plenty of talent around him. Let's not act like he just went to a sorry franchise, because they're a great team. Defense and offense. The weapons he has around him has been significant. You got Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, 2,000-yard receivers prior to him arriving there. Gronk looked like he turned back the clock. Cameron Brate's a good tight end. You drafted an offensive tackle in the first round. You have a good offensive line. The defense, all year long, I've been raving about them, and everyone was doubting me about that take. I said that's why they're going to go to the Super Bowl. I've been on the Bucs train since about October. I said that they will go to the Super Bowl, mainly because of that defense, and Brady knows how to manage the game. With that being said, going to a new system, no OTAs, no training camp, no preseason at age 43. Right then and there, you have to think, okay, he's got to have a slow start. He's obviously not the guy he was at 35 years old or 30 years old like he was in 2007 or something amongst those lines. So I expect him to have a slow start, September, October. Then November, December, he's really going to hit his stride. Some of that was true, some of that was not. November was the worst I've ever seen in my life, and then December came and he looked like an MVP again. Throw for over 4,600 yards. Threw for 43 touchdowns. And their road to the Super Bowl to be champions, that was impressive who they beat, though. It's not Tom Brady just beat them. The Buccaneers beat them. Going into the Superdome, going against Drew Brees and those New Orleans Saints team, I was never a true believer of them, but that's still a very impressive win on the road. And despite Brady's never been to a Super Bowl without getting a first-round bye and having that home field advantage luxury. Conference championship, the MVP and Aaron Rodgers. The Packers were most people's favorite to win the Super Bowl all year long. Defeated them, even though I still think between the quarterback matchup of Brady and Rodgers, I still think Rodgers outplayed him. And then with that being said, the Super Bowl. Going to get up against the king and the best player in the league in Pat Mahomes. But now let's actually dissect the game. Brady had to manage a game which he's probably the best at in the world in terms of just managing a game. If you're going to have your defense play lights out, give you pieces on the offensive side of the ball, and Brady's going to manage a game, of course he's going to be lights out. Of course the Buccaneers are going to win. They got the Super Bowl MVP wrong because it deserves to go to Todd Bowles. He's the number one reason the Buccaneers are Super Bowl champions right now. Sure, he had a great performance. Sure, he played well. But the defense set the tone, and defense wins championships. Offenses wins games. That is the difference in this ball game. Mahomes ran for 500 yards behind the line of scrimmage. If that doesn't say enough, I don't know what will. The way the Buccaneers put pressure on him, any quarterback you put pressure on, they'll never be the same. No quarterback, especially if you put pressure on Tom Brady, he will never be the same. But Tom Brady had time in the pocket to read a book, call his wife, maybe take another nap, and then he had time to make a decision. So if you're going to give Brady that much time against a poor defense, which I've been concerned about that Chiefs defense all year long, of course Brady's going to eat you alive. But Mahomes had nothing to work with. Sure, you could say that was the worst game of his career, but I mean, like Billy said, like Chris said, Tyreek Hill dropped a touchdown, which was one of the most magnificent throws I've ever seen in my life. Rolling left, throwing off his left leg, hit Tyreek Hill in the helmet. That was a game changer. The Chiefs would have been up 7-0 right then and there. We look at Travis Kelce dropping a first down on a key third down. Momentum killer. And then Damian Williams late in the game, that was the greatest throw I've ever seen in my life. Better than the throw Rodgers had against the Cowboys in the divisional round of the playoffs. Mahomes being parallel to the ground and hitting your teammate in traffic, parallel to the ground, was the greatest single throw I've ever seen in my life. And that's why Mahomes' numbers look so bad. So for all the goofballs and stat geeks out there who love to read the box score, go on and the Pro Football Reference, or for NBA wise, you go on NBAReference.com or whatever it's called. There's context behind that. The stats tell a story, not the full story. You need to look at games and dissect what actually happened to evaluate someone's performance. I thought Mahomes had a really slow start in that game, but overall, his performance was fantastic. He was fantastic in that game. The Chiefs missing, I think, 4 starters on the offensive line. Their top 2 tackles were out. What did you expect against a defense who knows how to put pressure on the quarterback? And in the Week 12 matchup, when Tyreek Hill received for 203 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, from what my estimation is the most in NFL history in a first quarter, of course they're going to have a different game plan. Tyreek Hill was taken out of the game. He was always doubled. There was always safety help on him, so you can't beat him with the deep ball. And Travis Kelce didn't show up. Travis Kelce didn't show up. So Mahomes was basically expected to be a magician, beat them by himself. Unfortunately, he can't throw to himself, and that's why the Buccaneers are Super Bowl champions. As much as everyone wants to rave about Brady, his rings, his accomplishment, how great he is that he beat Mahomes, he beat Rodgers, he beat Breeze, the Buccaneers as a team, coaching, front office, the players, top to bottom, is why they are champions, not just Tom Brady. We need to give more credit to the entire roster and not just him, as much as I will give Brady his credit and as much as everyone else should give Brady his credit.
Yeah, and to your point, that playoff run was really impressive. I mean, Tom Brady not being very Tom Brady-esque in that NFC title game, he threw 3 interceptions in the second half, and the Packers got almost nothing out of those extra opportunities with Aaron Rodgers. That defense really dug its heels in and really got confident as the year went on. And to beat the Saints, they had 2 butt kickings from the Saints, and the last one being a 38-3 slashing that they got right before the Bucs really started to kick it into gear and things really kind of got going for them as they kind of realized, like, whoa, there's different levels to this game, and maybe we need to just kind of buy into what Brady's selling here and get going. And, you know, it's really kind of telling, too. Teams have a hard time beating a team 3 times, but a divisional team, you've already beat them twice, playing them in the playoffs, it's never bode that well for the team that had those 2 regular season victories. But still, the way that they lost those games, there wasn't a whole lot of indication that the Buccaneers were going to close that gap on the Saints, especially how bad that last game worked out for the Bucs. But Tom Brady, like you said, in the NFC title game, those 3 interceptions and that defense not giving up much to the Green Bay Packers, that game could have gotten ugly, and they had every opportunity to close that gap as they kind of got jumped on by the Bucs. But getting into that Super Bowl, the weakness of that offensive line and getting Vita Vea back on that defensive line, the Buccaneers statistically were way better as a defense as a whole with Vita Vea on the field. Just way too many pass rushers, way too much speed, and it just allowed that secondary to sit back there and be smart. While you said Mahomes ran for 500 yards behind the line of scrimmage, trying to find and buy time to make some of the most incredible throws that we'll ever see be incomplete in NFL history. Just sad day for the Chiefs, but ultimately, you know, when you're there, you're that weak. Like you said, Travis Kelce still had 10 receptions, didn't show up, but he did have times where he would catch 3-4 balls in spurts, but they didn't do anything consistently to try to work him over the middle and clear out space for him. And then, of course, that 3rd and 8, right when the Kansas City was kind of, this is the last chance for them to try to make a push, to try to do something right before you knew that the game was over. When he dropped that ball, it was just a snowball effect. You could just see it just was not going to happen for Kansas City that day.